Alright, Mopar people, welcome back to the channel. I'm just Mopar Joe, and we are back on the 68 Barracuda notchback from my buddy Darren at Blake's Muscle Car. My plan, a couple things. One, last video somebody asked what brand of tire is this. This is just an old beater tire that if I get primer on or something, it's fine. He had spray painted these wheels, so he's getting new wheels and tires. This says Dayton Thoroughbred Premium 78, so that's probably older than I am, but it looks cool on here. Last time I finished up I did my first skim coat of filler over this area. My goal this week is get this thing in the primer, the whole shebang, because I am in Arkansas, and you can see what happens when you bring bare metal down and leave it. So today's temperature is high of 98, feels like 105, and I haven't done very much sanding or any sanding at all on this side, so I'm going to leave it alone, and I'm just going to go by and do as much as I can. So the goal by the end of this video is have this entire car in its first direct to metal primer coat. If I come up on some little spots, kind of like, I knew I had something somewhere through here. Yeah, see these highs and lows here? I may go ahead and fix that, wipe it, sand it, and then shoot my primer on it. That way that stuff is at least protected. It's pretty good stuff. I'll show you that primer in a minute, or at some point in this video, but I'm going to reach a certain time today. I'm going to stop. I'm going to prime my surfaces. I'll probably go ahead and take my door handle and lock a cylinder out. The rest of this stuff is the glass is all staying in. I'm going to fix my little spot back here at some point soon. Let's get to it. I want to show you my process. I have been boogieing down on this right front fender, stripping it down to bare metal and finding all my dents. And the beauty of this is I can get my hand to the back side of everything. I had debated pulling this fender off, trying to lay it on a table or a stand or something and hammering it out, but let me show you the back side. I'll probably end up taking it off anyway, just to wash out all the nastiness in here. But check out that original red paint. That's what we're going back to, so I don't really foresee myself painting inside of here. I can get this cleaned up nicely, and if there's any bare spots I can touch them up or something, but for the most part all that's gonna be fine. Just like on the rear of the car, there's no rust, and it's wonderful. You can see our little tiny stained marks. All that's fine. I haven't had to replace or fix any rust holes yet. All that's good. I'm gonna have to grind it down still, but I'll lay on a creeper and do that. Got a good little bend in here on this corner. Don't know what happened. That's dented in there. Good little dent. Low here. Dented in here and out here. You can kind of see it now that it's bare metal. In here, slightly in there, like stuff like that and that. Probably those two would actually block out with primer. Yeah, just tracking our dents. I got to do a little stuff around where the fender chrome goes on. You can see that it bulges. It's dented in here and it bulged just out there, so if I can't get my stuff to it just like I want to, I'll fix that when I pop the fender off. I don't think I'm taking the fender off today. I want to keep going low. I had a little touch of filler there, so that's our second, or the only filler I found on this panel. And I'm not sure I can get wide open access to it in the back. You can see my arm. So I can tap that right out. We're dented around the bumper attachment point again. See the low here, low, and dented into the front of it there. This is a slight dent. Hopefully you can tell. And it looks like it had rusted there at some point. Then we have You can see this kind of fan of low spots. I'm kind of wondering, is that like a factory thing? Just because when they had crimped that metal over or pulled it, did it do that? So I'm going to clean that up. Pretty deep dent here and a deep dent there. So as pretty as she was under the paint, there's a lot of stuff hiding. It's not a big deal. I'll get these knocked out. As I hammer along, I'll resand until the majority of my paint's gone, because that's kind of the correct process, so I'm not having to put any kind of filler over that old nasty stuff. And if I get them close enough, I won't put any filler on it right now. I'll go ahead and shoot my primer. You can still see my little rust spots like those. So I am going to coat this whole fender in rust mort. You'll get to see me do that today too. So. Welcome to our brand new fender. For the most part. It's unstripped, you can tell. My little spots here. I got my dolly back behind there and whacked. Just kind of the finer edge of that. Go through, just hook it in the lip. Hammer, hammer, hammer. My dent here is 95% gone. I'm scared to keep messing with it. I think I'm gonna end up dimpling the metal, and it's gonna have to take a little skim coat anyway, but it's so much better. Spot here, this corner, I had to bend it back down, straighten out the bottom, which it's finally, I want you to see the surface rust, but there are no rust holes in that thing, so that's really nice. I still need to get that amount of paint off, but that'll be shortly. I want to go ahead and get my rust mort on soon. Got this down. I've got to get the trim from Darren, because I straightened our lip out here, and where the holes go in, I actually crimped those too so that it would be nice. They'd be tight holes again. In theory, I could weld them up, but I think these bottom two still had the screws in them. They were so tight, the screws stripped when they tried to take them out. So all that looks great. Had a lot of dents going on through here, and I got myself this kind of my long bar and was able to get to the majority of this. There's one little spot right there that I'm having trouble with, and I think if I pulled the fender I could probably get right to it, ding ding, just like that. But so I may leave it alone. I can prime it for now. This is just the direct metal primer I told you about, and the spot here, so there's no paint left on that. All of it looks good. I got my, let's see where the change in the grind there. There you go. That little spot of filler I got behind, tapped it out, ground it. I went through here and hit my lip one time just to make it all uniform. There's a few little highs and lows, but again, I think I'm gonna probably end up doing a little fine skim coat on this, but I want to prime it first and then come back through and block and see what it really needs. That's kind of like the rest of the fender. I think the rest of the fender is 95% straight. A little tiny spot like that, I can get to it, but again, that might literally block out. Down here there's another one of those, just a little tiny dimple. Now I may get my bar back around to that side that I was just using, or something similar, to be able to tap it and it'll go away. So this fender is ready to be rust morted, and I'm getting it out now so I can show you. You can find that in the link below. I actually have an Amazon store with all of my favorite body shop stuff. If you want to click on that and get you some, it's pretty good stuff. All I'm doing, I'm gonna soak this panel. Let me get that. You can see it starting to work. I don't really want a stream. I'd like a mist more. There we go. Get it all on here. I did wipe this down with some grease and wax remover before spraying our good stuff here. And this is acid. if I was not outside, I would have on a respirator. Get this coated down. I just got a blue rag. I'm not trying to wipe it off. I'm just going to rub it in a little. You can use a brush to put it on if you'd like. You don't really want to waste a lot. Yeah. Get it nice and wet again. Moisten it up just a little bit more. Hopefully you can see how much darker it looks now. I'm gonna get her wiped off and blown off and move on. Here's where I had to finish off at. I mixed myself up some filler, and I was gonna hit all of my dents and such. And by the time I got out there, I couldn't find them. You can very clearly see them now, hopefully. I remembered where they were, but I guess I just had the metal a little too smooth where I couldn't tell where to start wiping at. So I went ahead and put 2 coats of the direct to metal primer on, and I'll shoot me a little guide coat on that and block it, and I'll be able to quickly and easily do my spots. But I did get a couple small ones wiped. My little one right down here, you can still kind of see it through the primer. And I think one through here somewhere. I can't remember. But she's waving right now, but we're not done, folks. I'm just trying to get this thing to not rust. You can see where my rust mort turned part of that rusty. I wasn't keeping that part soaking wet, so I'm gonna strip this door off tomorrow, so we'll be back. This is day number 2, and you can see how much it's raining outside right now. We had to get the car in. But the door stripped, the quarter stripped back to here, so we can sand this off in a minute. This is stripped. Started getting into the lead a little. You can see the change in color there. We want to leave that alone because it's a really nice solid seam. But we've been working on the trunk lid itself. Has a big bow on the other side. We just fixed this one, and I wanted to show you how we did it. Here it is to start with, like that. There's our high-tech block of wood. Hold down on that one for me, sir. I think I'm gonna start right here because it looks the highest. Are you ready? 2 hands, man, 2 hands. Perfect. One more time right there. Ready? I'm not gonna get your thumb. Pretty good. Better? Yeah. Let's show the world. So we're really nice from here now. This spot's a little bit high. I need to take an actual body hammer and hit down on that because it's high. If I come around the corner, this is dented in, and that's pressed in just barely there. So it pressed in there and raised that up. Here's our next day lookout. I woke up with this idea. It's probably gonna be terrible, but it's gonna be fine. This is all lots of complex curves and such. This still has the Viper paint on it that hasn't been scraped yet. Viper red. You can see the original. Nice red right there. Difference. I'm going to tape this thing off with my big tarp, and I'm going to sandblast. I'm sandblasting from this edge all the way over to the other, and below it I'm going to tape off my light holes nicely so no sand or less sand. Sand's always going to get everywhere. That's just the nature of sandblasting. But tape off my seams. I'm going to sandblast this too because I still have some rust here. Still looks rusty where it was underneath that trim, and it's going to make that go much faster since it's mostly stripped. I talked to Darren yesterday, and we're going to get rid of this and either weld the hole back in, or, well, I'm going to weld the hole back in. So I'm going to get it off and take a look, see what's going on behind there. I don't think that was a factory hole, but all this needs to be stripped. There's several dents through here too, like where the car was rear-ended or something. You can see them, boom, boom, boom. And one here. I guess maybe somebody tried to push it with a pickup truck or something one time. There's no telling. But this is going to be stripped today. In a perfect world, I can get that all stripped, finish stripping this, and get that section, all the rest of the car, in direct metal primer, or this 2/3 here, before I do the final side and the top. This is giantly dented in. Like, here's a side profile. Here's a somewhat flat bar. That's not supposed to be like that. Something whacked it like that when it dented here and there. So what I'm going to do is just kind of work down the line and pop them out. I think I got pretty decent access back here. Like there's the strong brace right behind, so I can get my bar in between and start pushing around, and I'll have my little hammer and I'll try to tap it around while I'm pushing it and just see what happens. I ran over that with my 80. You can see them shiny lows, boom, boom, boom. High, 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 high. So that's kind of where my bar got in and pressed. So I need to find the other one that has just a slight curve to it to get up above that, and I can hold above and then hammer that back in. It's getting pretty close. That sucker was caved in big. You don't recognize this bar if you ever pulled any nails at your house. It actually slips right up behind there so beautifully. And it's basically on the inside of that. You can see the contour. Gives me a block to hammer against. Also, I can pry that out using that section there. Beautiful. Hopefully you can see that. It feels really, really, really good. I'm gonna run over my flat disc real quick, and that'd be ready to wipe and then sand, and it'll be done. That's less than, I don't know what, less than a 32nd of a hole there. So much better. Hadn't touched that one yet. Wolf. We're getting much, much better, but I'm not quite there yet. Felt pretty good about that one. It's wonderful. This dude, I got the big section pried out. There's a little low spot there, slight low spot here, kind of a crumbly little low spot there. So I just got to keep working it from the back side. I've even got my floor jack here where I could hammer my bar in or anything I'm using and then jack up on it, and it would kind of pull the dent down and out. So that was working nicely. A little low spot here and here, but I'm about ready to strip this whole thing with my blaster and I'll probably wipe it today. I feel good about that. It's a nice, it's actually not humid, so it'd be a little better weather for some Bondo action or Rage Ultra action. Also, you'll see that the bottom of that tail light, how straight that is. This one is terribly caved over, rolled in, so I need to straighten that out too. Here's what we're looking like after a little blast. I blasted all my little rust specks. See up into there. Now I can treat that. Blasted. Blasted. There's my hole. But you'll see that I also blasted this a lot more so I can rust moored it. Found another little hole right there. And I think my best bet on it, I'm gonna go ahead and weld it up, because I need to weld it up. I also need to weld, I'm gonna put a little plug in right here and weld that up. And we're all looking pretty good. That paint was just blowing away from there, and I wanted to especially hit these cracks with my blaster because I could kind of get in there a little deeper. So I still need to wire wheel that out, blow it out, then I can reseal it after I prime or do whatever I'd like on it. I went ahead and got on down. My dents look really nice. This panel really improved. So if it's in this state right here, I can put my first layer of filler on just like I did this panel, and as you can see, the majority of it is gone. But I may do that before I do my primer on the back. I can get the first level of straightness on it to make it nice. This is just some old aluminum tape. It hung in there pretty good. Kept most of the sand out of the trunk and stuff. I put some in here. I wanted to blast around that instead of having to try to sand it by a fingertip over and over and over. But it's, oh, and I also blasted here. So I had the car masked off from there forward, all that stuff. It's another lovely day. I've been out here a few hours now. The humidity is really not bad yet, so as soon as I got here, I knocked off all my little filler I put on yesterday and did just another little thin coat. That stuff's drying up nice. You can see where I sandblasted this old stuff out yesterday. I'm gonna put me just a little wipe, basically right there. That'll be perfect, sand it off. I got my Dutchman panel. You can kind of see these zigzaggy sand marks here. Here's what I did with it. And I got just a shade more. This is the only little hole I see right there. Right there, hopefully you can see that. I'm taking my Dremel tool, I've started, and I'm just digging out that little pitty rust stuff. Then I'm treating this with rust mort one more time. Rinse it out, blow it dry, dry, dry. Then I can take my tiny spreader and smooth my filler down into there, bring it back over the edge, make my edge back perfect again, test fit my piece of trim even. And then through here, I just took my cutoff wheel and I ground this out. And that might scare a lot of people. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm gonna basically fill this gap in with filler. You gotta do a little more scraping there. I get that down clean, clean, clean. I'm filling this full of filler. My filler dries, I'm gonna take a nice piece of sandpaper or Bondo paddle, whatever, and I'm gonna re-sand this. So I'm not gonna rely on a coat of seam sealer to seal that for me. You can call me whatever you'd like, but instead I'll have a nice layer of hard polyester filler that's actually flexible. And never have an issue. This will never leak inside of a trunk. But if for some reason some seam sealer decided to break loose or whatever, it would be a bad day. So it's going to look just like this, except whenever I'm done, the crack will be filled and then resanded. You'll see in just a minute. I am going to get this side all the way down, trunk, lid, and Dutchman, and top of that quarter. Basically everything you see in bare metal will be primed today before I walk away from here. So I'm excited about that. That only leaves the top and this left side. So got a few little holes I need to weld up. If you'll remember, I showed you that one. This is the largest one. And then over here, that's where his on off switch was. So I'm gonna make a little plug for it. Just a flat plate, weld around, grind it smooth, blend it in, nobody will ever know. But for this one, I just got me an old piece of big block Mopar exhaust gasket, header gasket. And I'm gonna slide it in just like that. And since that's copper, I can weld to it, but the copper will break right off. So it'll give me a backing for that to weld to. There it is. In real time, that was probably 3 minutes. It's got a little bit of porosity, but it's very strong. And I just ran my short billy sander this way, and I ran it over it like that. I don't really see any high spots, so all I'm gonna do now is just minimally wipe that. I purposely did not touch that inside edge there. You can see it's still red painted. So I can keep my line straight for my trunk lid. I think all that's really nice. So just a baby smear on that. I'll come back and sand it over with my DA with some 80, and that spot will be ready to prime. Just like this whole side in just a second. I'm gonna weld this one up the same way and get my little plug. I'm pretty pleased with this. The little bit of porosity actually makes it look more factory to me. I don't think I'm gonna put any filler around that at all. You can see the factory dimples from the pinch welds. I'm gonna leave that, and it might even fill in most of it with my filler primer. So that's wonderful. Here's what the inside looks like. I think I can clean it up a little and just basically re-seam seal there if I want to do anything. I mean, it's simple. This stuff in here needs cleaned up. That's a later day, but I'm gonna keep pushing. That one's good. That one's good. And down here, boom. Let's keep going. Here's our DTM primer. It is the Impact Performance Product brand. 4-to-1, 10-15 minutes flash tween coats. Apply 2 to 3 wet coats. And so on. We won't be sanding this today. We're going to get it sprayed and leave it on. But there's a part numbers 4901 and 4900. And I just got the old Central Pneumatic big can gun here. Get her shot on. Here's what I got done. It's not a whole car. I don't feel like I let y'all down though. I feel good about it. Door's nice and straight. I went ahead and touched up the little spots I could see on it with just minimal filler. I don't see anything right now on it. I'm sure after I start blocking I will. On the quarter itself, little spot there still and there. I couldn't see them when I was wiping earlier. But here's my Dutchman gap I wanted to show y'all. I think that looks pretty nice. It's nice and straight. It's still, you can still tell it's a gap, but it's not super deep where stuff can hide in there forever. Here's what this front side looks like. You can see just a little bit of porosity or spots there in the Bondo, or in the filler. It's not Bondo brand, excuse me. But lines look nice and straight. Trunk lid looks wonderful. You can see my tiger striping from the primer. I don't care, it's primer. But it's on there plenty heavy. And this is not actually the, it said do 2 medium coats. So I did medium wet coats. Could have went heavier, but I'm not. I have a different filler primer I'll probably use after this gets blocked off, but I'm not blocking anything until I get the rest of this thing in the DTM primer sometime soon. I got to push out my little filler for those holes. It's not a big deal, but there's my patch spot. Looks pretty inconspicuous. And also the bumper goes straight across here, so you'd never see it anyway. My back panel was terrible, and it is much, much better. It's not perfect yet. I got a little high right there. You can kind of see it humped out. And I'm a little low there, and a little spot right there. That little deal there, but it's not caved fully in with a giant dent across it anymore, so I think I'm winning on that deal. There's my rust hole that I welded up. It looks a little high now that the filler's on it, so I can just tap it down, or that the primer's on. I never did wipe it with filler. I got a little low spot there. See it? It's much easier to see stuff with primer. And this needs re-wiped. It looks kind of, there you go, fully low. I didn't want to have it big and caked up. I can block away on this. This is wonderful. So anyway, that's progress on our 68 notchback Barracuda from my buddy Darren Blake at Blake's Muscle Car. I appreciate y'all watching, and there'll be plenty more on this. All right, Mopar people.